Hi everyone, my name is Jessica Palmini and I'm going to be talking about 3D printing and how this has become an emerging technology within the sphere of education. So what is a 3D printer? So on your screen is a picture of a modern 3D printer. And a 3D printer is basically an emerging digital technology that's widely being introduced into the STEM sphere of education specifically, while it allows students to create models using digital information that they've created on the computer, which is then transferred to a 3D printer where an image is created. So where did the 3D printer come from? Well, the 3D printer that we are seeing now in science classrooms around the nation was actually developed using a computer control model that was developed by the Massachusetts Institute for Technology in 1952, and it was being used for manufacturing. And this prototyping technology was essentially used in manufacturing companies to create objects based on criteria that were outlined in digital files. So this early model was very expensive, and so it wasn't until 2007 that Dr. Adrian Bauer was able to create a 3D printing machine that was economically accessible to schools and the general population. And so this is ultimately what sparked a 3D printing revolution of sorts as this technology became more accessible to the general public. And so you'll see on your screen just the differentiation from what the 3D printing model started as and what we see today. You can tell it's a lot more modernized and it's a lot smaller. Now I want to talk a little bit about how 3D printing has become an emerging technology. And so since its introduction into the sphere of education and engineering, 3D printing has continued to be on the rise. In fact, in his State of the Union address in 2013, President Barack Obama called 3D printing the wave of the future. And you can see a picture of him delivering that, and I'm going to show you a clip of that after this slide. And so in addition, with the shift in education and its focus towards STEM and that learning initiative, we're also seeing it being widely shared and publicized through platforms over the internet. And so people are sharing ideas, people are sharing information about it, and so as people share ideas, the creating possibilities and the opportunities for it to be used in innovative ways is increasing because people are becoming more aware of it.
Our first priority is making America a magnet for new jobs in manufacturing. After shedding jobs for more than 10 years, our manufacturers have added about 500,000 jobs over the past 3. Caterpillar is bringing jobs back from Japan. Ford is bringing jobs back from Mexico. And this year, Apple will start making Macs in America again. There are things we can do right now to accelerate this trend. Last year, we created our first Manufacturing Innovation Institute in Youngstown, Ohio. A once shuttered warehouse is now a state-of-the-art lab where new workers are mastering the 3D printing that has the potential to revolutionize the way we make almost everything. There's no reason this can't happen in other towns. So tonight, I'm announcing the launch of 3 more of these manufacturing hubs, where businesses will partner with the Department of Defense and Energy to turn regions left behind by globalization into global centers of high-tech jobs. And I ask this Congress to help create a network of 15 of these hubs and guarantee that the next revolution in manufacturing is made right here in America. We can get that done.
So how does the 3D printing process work? So to start the process, a student would first use a computer to create a data file using a software that's downloaded off of the internet. So the engineering programs that are used to create files for the 3D printing process are often very challenging and complicated, and so there's a lot of internet resources where programs have already been pre-created in a sense, and there's templates that students can use. And this is really helpful in just starting the process of understanding how to create objects using the 3D printer. So that's kind of a jumping off point for teachers to start with their students. So after that file is created using the software, it's then transferred from the computer to the printer, which helps the printer know what and how to print the object. So there are two primary ways that the 3D printer manufactures objects, those being either subtractive or additive. And so in the subtractive process, the printer separates material to make an object, while in the additive method, it fuses material together in order to make the object that is being created. And then there's also a bunch of settings on the printer that users can kind of mess with and experiment with, and this helps improve the manufacturing process, and students kind of change this and adapt it in order to fit the needs of what they're trying to create. So in terms of education and its alignment with academic standards, the 3D printing model is highly aligned with standards for technological literacy, or STL, and it meets nearly all of the outlined expectations for a 21st century learner. So the 3D printing implementation meets technology standards 1 through 4, those being the first one, it meets the characteristics and scope of technology. 2, it meets the core concepts of technology. 3, it meets the relationships between technology and other fields, so students are kind of crossing other fields with the knowledge that they're gaining. And then lastly, number 4, it meets the cultural, social, economic, and political effects of technology, and so students are able to connect what they're learning in technology to the world and to their society. Now I want to introduce a case study of a school in Alberta, Canada that used 3D printing and used it in order to bring social awareness to their school, but also in order to do good. They used it as a humanitarian effort for their students, and so I'm going to share a little bit about that school. So the school was called Christ the King Senior Junior High School in Alberta, Canada, and this school pioneered their own 3D printing program through an elective course, and they implemented this over the course of 2 years, which enabled them to fine-tune their program over time as both students and teachers worked towards learning how to best utilize a 3D printer. So in the second year of the program, teachers and administrators saw that students began to take a greater level of engagement in the course project because it was accessible online. So teachers found that students were actually working on their projects inside and outside of the classroom because of their investment and how excited they were about what they were doing. And so as students from the first year program developed their skills in the second year, teachers began to identify that students in this program needed a greater challenge, which led the school to sort of investigate projects that would challenge students to build those new skills. But they also hoped to seek a project that would create positive social awareness and would benefit a specific cause. So the school chose to work with an organization called Enable. And this organization, what it does is it works with people who are disabled, like who are missing limbs and things like that. And so the school decided to work with this organization, and so the organization sought volunteers who would fundraise and ultimately use their printers to make assistive limbs such as hands or arms to the disabled, and these are using special 3D printers with special materials. And so the school ended up joining and kind of teaming up with this organization. They did a lot of fundraising efforts, and were able to work with this organization and just do some good while also raising that social awareness for the disabled population. And so this school today still is working with this organization in their 3D printing program. And I think it just shows that 3D printing has so many different positive values that can come to the classroom through its use. It's engaging, it's incredibly innovative, and it's, implementing technology and engineering and design, and so students are able to get that cognitive and that brain work, but also this shows that it has so many humanitarian possibilities and can really be used to do good. And I think in our world, in our social climate right now, this is something that our students need to know, and they need to be getting access to. So I want to thank you guys for listening to my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it and you learned something new about 3D printing. And I hope for all of you science and math teachers that you would truly consider working with 3D printers and exposing your students to this, because I think it's a really powerful and innovative emerging technology.